All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call this city council work session meeting of October 14th, 2025 to order. First on the agenda is a new hire recognition for municipal court. Stay here.
Good evening. I'm here introducing Annalise. She came here from the Charleston area and she is jumping in with some knowledge of our software system. So she's doing a great job.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next is a presentation of the Waterfront Advisory Committee report to council. Scott, you want to?
Mr. Oliver, who is the chair of the Waterfront Advisory Committee, is with us, so he's going to give you an update, probably entertain any questions you might have. And also just for reference and as a reminder to the public, Councilman Spalletti is also a member of that body as well.
Mayor, Council, I am here to make the initial report of the Waterfront Advisory. Now been providing meeting session, several meetings since June. I think we've come a long way. In some respects, we have a long way to go. But I think you'll see that this initial report that I have given you an outline of will make that we have made substantial progress, at least with respect to the Waterfront Park. So if I could start with that, you have an outline in front of you, one-page outline. What we've done with respect to the Waterfront Park is, over the last several months, is to gain a very good understanding of what the problem is with the leading platform, what the options are, remedy the problem. And we have a plan in place to have the engineers assess 3 options, which were selected for this room at a joint session with City Council about 3 weeks ago. Those options, along with cost estimates for each, will probably be ready for public review and inspection in the first quarter of 2026. I spoke with Mr. Barnott last week to try to get his idea of when they might be ready with the evaluation of the option costs. And he said that given the season of the year and the complexity of the job, that he'd be comfortable with coming us with unit further. Just for purposes of a quick review, I know council is familiar with this, but the 3 options to fix the problem at the Waterfront Park are, engineers refer to them as options 4, 6, and 8. I call them A, B, and C in this outline. First is to rebuild a relieving platform on the same footprint, same size, same shape, using better materials for the underpinning, and lighter weight material for the platform itself. Second option is to replace the relieving platform on the same footprint again with a seawall and backup. Third option is to replace the relieving platform with what they refer to as a hybrid structure, which would consist of both fixed and floating elements. Really don't know what to expect on this. It will be hopefully an interesting and pleasant surprise with a reasonable price tag, and I'll consider whether the city wants to go in a sort of a new and fancy direction. These options will be presented all at various tide level options, assumptions, and there will be options for the docking of cruise ships. Cost estimates will reflect with and without cruise ships. We also have a plan in place to solicit public input. Initially, while the engineers are working, we will issue probably next month a survey questionnaire available to the public, soliciting inputs, ideas for the waterfront park. Not so much with respect to the engineering work that's being done, but with respect to various amenities and other features that could be added. The public presentation, as I said, by the engineers, is probably going to happen in the charrette, probably in the first quarter of next year. And with the benefit of public input from that, public input through the survey, we should be prepared to reach conclusions as to which option go forward with in terms of recommendation to council and which amenities to add, which may not be present today. Or we're going to have revisions made by the engineers and then final recommendations to council. And my sense is you should be expecting that toward the end of the first quarter. Meanwhile, we do have a recommendation, which is, and I think you were here when this conclusion was reached, that the city should go forward in parallel with both permitting and procurement work with respect to the building of temporary access to the day dock, which would provide at least some access for the public to the waterfront during the period of this construction. And finally, we recommend the city should look into additional options to expand public availability of the waterfront park. One that came to committee's attention was perhaps expanding the day dock, which would provide at least some more frontage for this period. Any questions?
Thank you for all you've done.
Appreciate it, Joe.
Not finished yet. I don't want to drag this out, but I do want to touch on the marina. We had a two-part charge. One was the waterfront part, the other is the marina. The council resolution of May the 13th instructed that the committee back to the marina would evaluate the lease, the safe harbor lease, and possibilities for improvement of the lease, as well as be sure that it is consistent with public access goals of the Federal Land and Water Conservation Fund regulations. In approaching that, we came face to face with the reality that there was a significant cloud over the lease. And we have spent a good bit of time trying to come up with options to help the city resolve, recommendations to help the city resolve the cloud. Move forward, we're not there. I don't know when, if ever, we will get there in terms of recommendation. Back to that. There is one possibility, and that is there's a so-called property management agreement between the city and Department of the City and Department of Commerce, which was entered into in 1976. That agreement is asserted by some prohibits the city from selling or leasing marina premises without first getting the approval of those two federal departments. City's position is that the property management agreement does not apply to the marina premises. Staff is in the process of trying to get clarification of that issue with the federal departments. And through the help of Councilwoman Mason, Congresswoman Mason's office, some significant contacts have been made. If that matter can be resolved, this committee may be in a position to make a recommendation to council with respect to. As it is, we will go forward with review of the lease and evaluation of it under the standards of the Federal Conservation Land Board.
You heard anything from Representative Mason's office about a timeline, maybe for getting clarification?
I think the the manager and the police would comment on that. Had a nice conversation with the person that she put him in touch with, and that person was furloughed the next day. That's not been back.
That's a true statement. One in Mace's office made the connection for us. And then I was able to speak directly with someone on the staff of the Land Water Conservation Fund from the National Park Service. We spoke on September 30th. He wanted to gain a better understanding of what was going on and the questions that we needed to have answered. So I provided some of his background in addition to all the different ones we already had in this discussion. So he said that he thought he had enough information to move forward and try to help figure this out. And, but he did say we probably won't hear him on. He was right. So they are furloughed, and we're waiting until the federal government comes back on.
Thought that might happen. But it came to the works.
It is.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All
I'd like
right.
to say thank you for all you do.
All righty, next is a discussion in the public works contracting services compared to in-house services. Alan. Thanks.
They get started. I just want to state to council, I've met with Alan and I've met with Nate on this issue. I've met with Nate a couple of times on this issue, in fact. And we would not be bringing this to tonight's discussion if we do not believe that it was truly, in the long run, cost effective and a more effective way of maintaining some of our grounds, some of our cities. So that's why we're bringing this to you for discussion tonight, because it would involve adding FTEs. But it would be adding the FTEs using the same dollars that we would have to use to spend on those contracts. So with that said, I'll let that go ahead with the presentation.
Mayor, council.
Session.
I give everyone a little background. The city did issue 2 RFPs for street sweeping and facility maintenance. Bids unfortunately came back much higher than what we budgeted for in fiscal 26. So here we are about to pursue having these services done in-house rather than contracting through a third-party provider. There are benefits for in-house services. I'll let Nate kind of explain a little bit about some of the benefits going forward.
So improved ownership of work. I truly believe, because they're city-owned facilities, that we have a sense of pride in what we maintain. And whenever it comes to taking on the facilities contract, you're looking at the municipal complex and the 2 fire stations. We've already started looking at different areas within the complex as well as the fire stations that we can improve the way that those facilities look through in-house talent, whether it be with planting new flower beds, doing other stuff that would fall in line with the routine plannings of what we're already doing. I think being able to instantly respond whenever there's an issue and not having to go through a supervisor to a manager to possibly the owner of the company also brings a benefit to almost instant repairs to any issues that form throughout the week or even on the weekends. We've also been working to try to streamline the process, make it more beneficial to the employees that work in these facilities, making sure if need be, we try to do it on the weekends. So we're not doing stuff to blow on people's cars, or we're not trying to intermingle with the ins and outs of what's going on in the municipal complex. So those are just some of the ownership of what we could possibly bring if we do kind of absorb this contract in-house. And then better attention to detail. We have truly worked hard to make sure in public works that everything we touch looks better and functions better, no matter what it is. Any place we go and anything that we're working on, we want it to look better, including the facilities. It is something that we pride ourselves on. that we don't just go to make sure something is touched and mown, blown and go. We want to make sure that while we're here, we're also checking the irrigation, we're checking the trees, we're seeing if there's any dead wood, we're looking at some of that stuff that contractors may not be as interested in because it's not part of their contract. So those are just a few things. I'll let Alan go into.
You want to touch a little bit about the street sweeps as well?
So so with the street sweeping contract, you have some of that same ownership. We're also trying to incorporate where we do all of the complexes for street sweeping as well. That's currently not in the contract. We're gonna get some more of the city-owned roadways. We're gonna ensure that city products are being touched just as much as some of the other neighborhoods that we're going through, whether it be owned by state or county or whoever. We want to make sure that you're going to get someone 5 days a week that's going out there and street sweeping. And if we have issues, we can be ahead of it, hopefully, but also if we need to move from one area to another, that's something that we can do instantly. And you have that ability to go say that, you know, there's streets in the core district that have extra leaves because there's more trees on those roadways. We'll be able to identify those and make sure that we're staying ahead sweeping whenever there's other roadways that may not have as much leaves during the fall. And so we have that adaptability to maneuver and move that sweeper around to different areas.
You're gonna be purchasing a sweeper or leasing?
Yeah, 5-year
Lease
lease
purchase.
plan, yeah, lease purchase, 5-year lease plan is what we.
What are you gonna do for a backup?
We currently have a sweeper that we use now. We've been filling in for the current sweeping contract. We had a company that had backed out. And so basically we have been reactive to issues that are coming up just because we don't have the personnel to run someone full-time on a sweeper truck.
But the sweeper that we have doesn't actually have the water source
It does.
damper
It does.
Is it?
Yes, yes, sir.
and it's functional.
It is, sir.
It's a smaller model.
How many additional employees do you have to hire for this?
We're requesting 2 additional employees, 1 for facilities and 1 for the sweeping contract.
Nate, would you be able, if you do all of this, to have a schedule? Because I know a lot of people, they leave their cars on the street. And it makes it difficult for you to sweep when they're doing that, but give the residents a heads up so they can make sure their cars.
Yes, sir. We want to look at the existing contract that's in place and adapt and try to figure out where we can benefit and make changes that make sense. So kind of like a trash schedule, it'd be helpful to know, hey, we're gonna be sweeping, you know, in the core district on Tuesdays, or we're gonna be sweeping in, you know, Battery Shores on Fridays. And we want to get to where we can do that. Just like the trash company, there will be some things we can't sweep in the rain, some other issues. But whenever we have those, that employee would be able to come over and assist Public Works in other areas that would be beneficial.
And the street sweeper, are you gonna carry on a low boy, or are you gonna have it drive on its own?
The street sweeper will be a self-contained vehicle. It's an Isuzu model that has the flat nose, but all the sweepers the same as the current model that we have. It's a smaller sweeper. It'll help with our streetscapes so we can get under the trees that are along the streetscapes. But they do have a lifespan. Ours is getting towards the end, so we want to keep that as a backup if we were to get this contract so that we can make sure that we're doing the routine maintenance on the new one. And then we would like to try to do a cycle that keeps those sweepers. The new one would eventually go to the back. We would look at leasing a new one, and then we would kind of keep that cycle so that the sweepers are always going to be able to run. There's always a backup. There's always, you know, we had a lot of issues with this last contract with the sweepers were down and there was no backups. And so this is an opportunity for us to be able to continue to sweep as well. We have in-house people that are already trained to do the sweeping. So if the one full-time employee that's doing the sweeping takes a week of vacation, there's employees that could step up and step into that sweeper truck and operate it and fill in where there's that void for that employee.
What's this sweeper cost? I know you could be leasing it, but I just wonder what the cost would be for one.
$273,000 in the slide here,
Where is it?
in the street sweeping project.
Almost 300.
So Nate, when do you anticipate maybe putting this into action?
With conversations, we have been possibly looking at January 1st, if I'm correct, sir.
This is something the council is in favor of and we're in budget. For first reading next month and second reading in December. That's due January.
So it wouldn't require any major adjustments to the current budget because of the trade-offs and the savings from the contract will be rolled into full-time equivalents or that will operate our suite.
Well,
There is.
I was running some numbers, I think for the, I can kind of go into more detail, but for the street sweeping, actually, we have savings, there's no budget amendment required for that. For the facility maintenance, there will be a slight budget amendment, just about $10,000. That's what I'm counting. Since we're doing it mid-year, we kind of budgeted for the entire year. If you don't mind, let me just go to kind of hit some of the highlights just for the street sweeping. And they mentioned this would be a hire a new FTE, associate 2 position. Mentioned about the new sweeper truck will be a 5-year lease to own. Budget was $70,000. As the bids came in, the lowest bid was $140,000 the first few years, and then increased after that. So here's kind of a breakdown showing the contract cost and then showing how the employee cost plus benefits is. This factors a 2.5% COLA each year. I did just notice that the first line, that contract cost is $70,000, so the typos should be $140,000. Those total numbers still agree, but
Oh, I thought you did that on purpose, because there's only half a year left.
yeah, I was kind of going back and forth, just trying to figure out which way to easily show it. I was like, I'll just do it for 1 year, but as you know, fiscal year is just half a year, but yeah, I was kind of playing around with that a little bit. But those show kind of even for each year, there are savings. Overall, the 5-year savings is $52,000 just from a financial standpoint. As they mentioned, there's other benefits as well to it. And then the facility maintenance, they are mentioned what it includes. This will include a new hire as well, a new associate 2 position. It will require a kind of one-time purchase of a new stand mower, some upfront costs. And then but this one, they'll be able to work 5 days a week, the contract, 1 or 2 days per week. They mentioned better quality work. And our budget amount was over 50,000 and the bids came in over 75,000. So here's a breakdown of that. You see that with the first year upfront cost of the mower, it does kind of show that there's more costs. And then after those other years, years 2 through 5 are pretty minimum. I think you start seeing those savings going forward, but they mentioned that the quality would be a lot better as well. So this is where we'll have a slight budget amendment for this contract.
Does the operation or the contract cost, does that include O&M in there? I mean, because I'm thinking on our side, we got the equipment cost, but does that include gas and fuel, whatever it takes?
Yes, sir. So you'll see where it does the $1,000 every year after the new purchase.
Got it.
That's the maintenance for the blades, the fuel and all the.
So on the lease of the sweeper, does that include any maintenance or do we do the maintenance ourselves?
So I haven't fully dived into the exact details of all the maintenance that is with the lease. I do believe that your routine maintenance, which would be your oil changes and any basic maintenance would be part of that lease agreement. Anything like new brooms, new stuff like that would be on us.
New brooms are costly.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that needs to be built into it because that could be $5,000 and $6,000, $7,000 for the new brooms. So on that. And the other, go back to the contract side. I'm not mincing words when we talk about a budget adjustment, but the contract costs were all under budget. I mean, the contract costs were all over budget. So our budget is still only for 70,000. And for facilities management contract, so the comparison technically isn't the budget amount, it's the contract amount, which we were already over budget for. So I mean, there has to be budget adjustments here in order to affect this direction. Because we didn't budget for this much, right?
Right.
Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right.
Just want to make sure, I'm not crazy.
We're already-
So I mean, we're doing the comparison on the basis of the budget, but the reason we're not going after the outsource is because we under budgeted for it. So, I mean, the comparison should be a little bit more specific to what our budget was, because we're gonna have to make the adjustments to the budget, because we didn't budget for this either, so.
I'm gonna tie in a question because one of the questions that hasn't been asked yet that I was going to ask, I was gonna also ask about maintenance, but we covered that. And I was looking at the exact same thing, Mike, but I was able to, I haven't seen the bids, obviously, but with us setting aside $70,000 and the lowest bid coming in at $140,000, it just piqued my curiosity. I wanted to look at it and found that there was a question from the bidders. It's question 6. It says, is there a list of streets with curb and gutter, valley gutter, or rollover curbs? And they basically said, will this info need to be gathered by the bidder? And the response from the city was no, a list of curb and gutter, valley gutter, or rollover curb types is not provided. It is the responsibility of the bidder to verify existing roadway conditions prior to submitting a bid. Now, while I understand that, I don't know if we disclosed how much was budgeted for. I know we obviously, publicly set the budget, but if we had any additional effort to explain to the bidders, hey, this is how much we've budgeted for, so this is what we're asking you to do, just to make sure they had a clear definition of what the scope was. But even if we had done that, I don't know that those who put in a bid had a fair chance to even assess the full scope of the job because they didn't know what roads they were gonna have to build in. I think the requirement for the curb and gutter roads was every week. And so they're gonna have to maintain this list of roadways every week that is not included in the RFP. And they would have to essentially do their own due diligence to do a tally on an inventory to determine how many roads they were gonna have to clean on a weekly basis. I'd venture to say they probably just shot a high bid out there to make sure that they were covered without it really reflecting the accurate cost, right?
So they were provided a map of every roadway that was requested to be swept. They were not provided the mileage of valley drain or curb and gutter, but they were provided every roadway that we requested to be swept.
Okay, because I saw the map, right, and you had the point highlighted, you had
I
Higginsville,
think it's exhibit A through
Yeah.
F, I believe.
but I didn't see captured in there the list of curb and gutter, so it wasn't in there.
No, sir.
Right, so I still think that even if it was captured in those maps, it would be hard for them to determine what the actual cost would be unless they had an exact number of how many streets they were cleaning. So my question would then become, does the city have that information? Do we know how many roads?
So I do not have how many roadways are curb and gutter and how many are not. I can get that. It shouldn't be too hard to figure out which ones are valley drain and curb and gutter. I think the biggest ones would be your main thoroughfares. Those are gonna be Boundary Street, Rebo Road, and then some neighborhoods. Spanish Point is valley drained. There's not a whole lot in the core district. Pigeon Point, I believe, has like one curb, two. But it would not be horrible to get that answer. But again, I don't keep track of that because they're all state roads.
Right. So here's my thought, because on one hand, if there is a department that I would like to grow, it is absolutely yours. And I really want to be able to hone in on those essential services and when it makes sense for us to do more, hire more FTEs, get more equipment to clean ditches, that kind of thing. I want to make sure that we can do that. On the other hand, a $50,000 or a $70,000 contract for a small business starting up can be a level of sustainability that allows them to get to that next level. So I don't want to compete with the private sector too much, at least with not giving a fair opportunity for them to submit a bid, understanding exactly what that scope is. And so in this case, we based that $70,000 budget number when we set it against something. So that tells me it was probably set against the previous contract. How much was the previous contract, do you know?
It's like 65, I think we budgeted like a 5% increase.
Okay, and that was doing the same thing?
Yeah, well, we actually had a street sweep contract for a year now.
It's been about a year that they backed out, I believe, in October of 2024.
So I would find it hard to believe that the price went from 65,000 to 140,000 for the same scope of work. Now, it might have, but again, I would venture to say that's probably because of the ambiguity here, them not knowing exactly what they were bidding against. I would personally, before we roll this in, one, because of what you pointed out, this is based on, $140,000, our lowest bid, which was already over budget. I would feel better if we did provide an inventory of exactly what we expected and then open it up for bid again, see what we get back. And if we still can't get something that is feasible or reasonable, then look at again, bringing it in with a better understanding of what's covered under our maintenance, as we lease it out. And then, that's it for the street sweeping as far as how I feel.
I think, we need to make sure that the budget fits. But there's value and goodwill in ownership. That I think Nate was talking to, that, because we own it, it's his city, we could probably reach out to him and get a response much quicker than we might be able to reach out to the contractor. And even if it's within what the contractor should do. So I think when we do all this and we get all the numbers straight, we need to factor in the goodwill portion of it that Nate brings, his delivery, that maybe contractor will not.
With Nate, I know what kind of quality of work we're gonna get, contractor. And we might have to go back and forth with or whatever, but I think we know what we get with Nate and, comfortable with dealing with him. His group.
And I agree. I think there's a huge importance of it being in-house from the standpoint of the instant availability, the responsiveness. Oftentimes we've had the companies that don't respond as quickly as we need or want them to as far as our residents are concerned. So there's no question, but I think especially the street sweeping, I don't have as much issue with the facilities maintenance, but I do only because in a former life, we owned a street sweeper. And those brooms are ridiculous. I mean, we had our homeowners association, we budgeted, $28,000 for maintenance and so forth. The brooms alone for the year were that much. I mean, it was way over what we thought it was gonna cost us to maintain it. And the brooms really burn out, especially if you have heavy loads. And we were like following up after the leaf fall, and all this stuff, and it was ridiculous.
Can I ask another question? How were the neighborhoods decided on? Because I mean, Mossy Oaks is probably the biggest neighborhood in the city and it was not in the map at all to be cleaned. So how was it chosen that we were doing like certain roads throughout the city, but then leaving other neighborhoods that have quite a bit of tree coverage as well completely off?
I was
storm drains. A lot of it was storm drains originally.
I wasn't here when the contract was created and how each neighborhood was selected. I know a lot of the majority of the core district and the Point, they have underground drainage that's on the roadway. Spanish Point has the valley drains with the drainage on the roadway. Mossy Oaks has a lot of roadways where it comes off the road into the ditch, which brings a lot of your sediment and dirt off the roadways. And so that would be my assumption. Again, I wasn't here, and we've only added roadways that have been streetscapes since that contract was put in place. So like Green Lawn and Duke Street, I believe, and Prince Street and some of the other areas. I think we did add Allison just because it's been streetscapes in this contract, but you know, I'm assuming it's because it has the drainage on the roadways.
You guys have grown since then.
If memory serves, Mike, you probably remember better than I do, but
Pigeon Point doesn't have sweet beer.
there was a period for a while there, about 2 or 3 years, we didn't have any street sweeping at all. And
No.
we had a problem where I live in Spanish Point because of the drains there.
Yeah.
They had to be pumped out because all the sediment and leaves and everything just filled up the storm drain.
I will say whether Public Works or a contractor gets it, street sweeping is one of the most important things to assist with stormwater.
And that
Yeah.
started being, that was really originally, and I'm talking probably 8-10 years ago. And it may have even been further back than that, but that was the major thrust was trying to extend the life of the cleaning of the storm drains and the storm systems that were already aging and having issues on their own. And I know that that was a large topic of the conversation doing it, but there was a period there, because the 65 budget was like 7 years ago or 6 years ago. It was pre-COVID when the 65 was. And we didn't, the increase that came back for the 70,000 base on here, in my mind, when I was reading the RFP, was unreasonable. I mean, it was unrealistic from the standpoint of everything that it had gone up from COVID forward. There was nothing with that low an increase as far as cost expense, and that includes brooms, mechanical, fuel, everything. But I think still a lot of the information in general, I think there's a lot better fine tuning that we could do to bring it back and make sure that we are comparing apples to apples before we make a decision on that one.
We move on to facilities maintenance, or we pretty much covered that
Take
too.
us back forward to council. Issue our vision, our people. Street sweeping.
Remind me again, so the facilities maintenance, that budget.
It's gonna cost about $14,000 more
Right,
than
but-
if we were to do a
So
contract.
did we do an RFP for that? Or
We did.
And our budgets came in, that was way,
Yeah.
it was 50,000, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me. This makes a lot more sense to me.
Well, I'll move forward now, facility maintenance.
Good.
November, December.
Any more questions from council? I'm gonna ask the public, any comments from the public?
And don't put your street on.
You get up, yes, name and address.
One come up.
Yeah, wait, well, okay, the picture taken.
Clean my plate, so I get my.
Well, Mike, you're on TV, so.
Mike told me, 1103 Craven Street, just a comment. We used to have a street sweeper coming up and down Newcastle and Craven 5 or 6 months ago. And they would go up and down maybe 4, 5, 6 times a day. But they never picked anything up. And they would go down the middle of the street and none of the parking areas off the side of the street ever got swept. And maintenance always had to come out and clean out all the gutters on Craven and Newcastle. Now for about 5 months, I haven't heard one for about 5 months, so maybe that's when they stopped doing their contract. But I just thought I'd give a comment that maybe how they do it might be.
And that's if we have a schedule, so you know ahead of time to move your car, so we can get on that.
It underscores that ownership comment you made.
Anybody else? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Alan and Ray.
Thank you.
We'll move on. Next item on the agenda is one I think most people are here for. Tourism Development Advisory Committee, State Accommodations Tax Grant Award Recommendations. Mr. Chet Patel is gonna lead us off on this.
I got ready to go. Okay, committee member. Year passed.
What happened to that year?
What happened that year? I had a lot of crazy things. Yeah. Seems like we're just doing this so long ago. So for this year's TDAC committee, I was elected the chair.
Congratulations.
For condolences. I think condolences better. Actually, I was appointed, I was voluntold.
Were you not there that day?
No,
Was that-
I had no- I had no say in it, so. This year's budget, is 1.639 approximately million. 916 from state accommodations, 30 from interest. And then 468 was released back to the committee, and then 224 was released back to the committee. And board meeting, I asked Alan if $100,000 from last year's pilot initiative was included in that total request. Out of that, we have the expenditures going
Hold on,
in
that was included,
into the 22024.
That's included with their budget, with their.
what you guys are working with in your 600,000 as far as distributing, right?
No,
That's for the whole.
that's including the 1.639 million.
I got you. Okay.
That's everything. That's everything.
And then the 95,000 is representative of the first allotment of that Twilight initiative, which is what you had on the sheet.
That's the expenditures that were reclaimed again this year.
But that's from what wasn't used now 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, 2 years ago. So 2 years ago it was released back in as part of the 224 number,
Right.
and then we're recommitting 95,000 for fiscal year 26.
Right.
It's being
Yeah,
moved forward.
okay, got it.
Okay. 25,729 police support, personnel support, the DMO gets 267,500 through the state. State law that's there. 32,230 goes to the Affordable Housing Trust, 95,700 Twilight Hours Initiative. 18,567 to the police ranger, 13 for the police mobile command, 268,639 for arsenal project, phase 1 and 2. 200,000 for the windows. City out of all that gets a grand total of 69,583 for the state plus the first 25,000. Yeah. Leaving us a total of 649,420 to disperse. Of which the committee is recommending for the Beaufort Film Society, their full request $15,000. Do I go one by one, or questions on you?
I'm good with one by
Yeah,
one.
one by one.
Yeah, if you'll just go through yours and then, yeah, I don't know how you want to do it, but if you go through yours and we can ask questions after.
Yeah, exactly. Just go all the way through.
South Carolina Low Country Resort Tourism. TDAC is recommending the full request of 72,800. Fort Roll Sound Foundation, TDAC is recommending full request of 5,250. For the Beaufort Water Search and Rescue, TDAC recommends full request of 17,500. The Freedman Arts District is a partial request of 20,000. Their original request was for 25,000. Beaufort Oyster Festival. I can't say anything about it because it's the board, so.
Oyster Festival, full request granted $30,000. Friends of Scottish Moss Trail, we recommended a full request there as well, for 12,100.
Yeah, I just can't say anything about the order.
Okay.
Kind of take that whole recusal.
Very segued to recuse yourself
Oh, yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, did we get him a form?
Yes, leave the room. I can say anything. Habitat for Humanity is a full request for $6,424. Mod numbers keep it this year. Carolina Blade Sanctuary, the Wonders of Winterbirds, full request of $8,500 to them. And then the Osprey full request from the same organization for $1,000. Friends of Hunting Island, full request of $10,000. The Original Film Festival, full request of $50,000. The Gullah Traveling Theater is a partial request of $33,000 from their original request of 36.
And you had a specific note on that thing about some
Yeah, so
gifts
on-
that were gifts.
Yeah, so on that one, they're doing a new event, a children's rice cook-off for $3,000, and they were doing cash prizes for that.
And for the other cook-off too, I think they get cash prizes.
For the rice cook-off.
The rice cook-off.
Rice cook-off, yeah.
Yeah, so the adult cook-off, they did include that in the presentation as part of their request. But they included the funds to go towards the prizes for the kids cook-off during the initial presentation. I think since then they've sent something back to the city, clarifying their position on that $3,000 and saying it's gonna go towards marketing, but at that time, this has already been finalized and sent out. Yep. The Pat Conroy Literary Center, TDAC recommends a full $9,000. And Center Heritage Days, TDAC is recommending a full $15,000. For History Museum is a partial request for $7,500 from their original request of 10. We got some discussion on that one. That majority, it's, the project they have is a temporary project until the full project goes into place. I think they have a screening room that they're putting in.
They've already put it in.
But the video hasn't been.
Oh, you're talking about the other part, yeah.
Yeah, the other part.
Yeah, that has.
Hasn't been in, so,
Stage and screen.
right, stage and screen. So the way they presented this was this is gonna be funding.
They have an, I forgot the name of the group. Yeah, they're gonna put it in immersion theater.
Yeah.
That's right.
And for this one, we were requesting funds for marketing that, and then another project they were doing at the same time, which is a short video,
They've already done it.
which they're gonna be displaying in the meantime until.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. The committee just came back and said, we'll just give them $7,500 for the marketing funds. Event Center Juneteenth is a partial request of $5,000. And their full request was for $7,500. This one. There's discussion on this one because of the visitor count that they're projecting is only 140 people for the event. And the cost per visitor and the dollar spent per visitor, the committee felt it didn't justify $40 per visitor spent. The other $2,500 they requested was going to equipment rental, but $5,000 went to marketing, so we basically agreed to grant them the $5,000 for marketing the event. And then come back next year, because that's a little bit request more. It's the first time events as well. Favorite core, we did not vote on that, nor are we recommending any funds to that organization, as that event is taking place over on Hilton Head Island and has no financial impact on the city of Butte. The big one. The DMO. So for the Beaufort CBB, for the sales plan, we're requesting a full $45,000, and that's to get group business here into Beaufort. That's pretty much what that accommodates. The Northern Area Sports Council is a assessment study. Rob's here for some questions on it if you need to. For a basically an implementation study for the facilities assessment that we have, so we can start marketing those facilities that we have in Northern Beaufort County to sports events.
So traveling sports, is that?
Yeah, traveling sports.
Like we were trying to do with the.
Yeah, sports tourism, trying to get footprint on sports tourism. So full $10,000 request on that. Now, the DMO, you guys are probably, you've seen my comments on that. Rob initially requested $160,000 from us, and we were eager to give it to him. And then in light of everything that's taken place this year in the city of Beaufort, they agreed to give them more. So the TDAC is actually recommending $240,000 for the DMO.
mainly because he can go ahead and use the funds to start marketing Buford 350 ahead of time for next year's events. Waterfront being out of commission completely right now, we need to basically figure out a way to drum up more business within the sun. The waterfront water area access probably is inaccessible right now. Grassy areas are accessible, but I think the committee felt that because of the condition of the waterfront right now, we might not get tourism dollars and tourists coming back into town because of what's happening, the presumption of the waterfront being actually closed, which it's not. We got some bad media about that's your waterfront's officially closed.
Yeah, add to that, next year is the 250th.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be big around the country, but especially in South Carolina, and also the FIFA World Cup is gonna be in the United States, and Atlanta is gonna be the closest area where there will be some games, and I've already talked to Rob. Robbie? I've already talked to Rob about trying to capture some of that, these international visitors that are gonna be coming over. But they're gonna probably go to Charleston, Savannah to find something unique and come to the coast, so they might as well put Buford in there too.
So pretty much the rationale of us recommending 240 going sale. Even after all the recommendations and the full funding requests and a few partials that we had, we still have a balance left over. That carries forward in the amount of
33,000.
Thank you. I would like that for next year. Any questions?
I was pleased to see the Conway Center had come this year.
Yeah.
Because they've been generating a lot of heads and beds over the last few years with the festival, and just for FYI, this year's festival writer residence is from Ireland. It's the first international writers residence for the week of the festival, which is a really big deal.
Yeah, so it was great to see them there. We had some questions regarding that as well, but they didn't have the answers at the time, so.
I think y'all did an excellent job this year, very complete, across the board and everything. And I think it's a really great job.
My only comment to council and to everyone listening is hopefully they don't get accustomed to full funding requests. This is probably one of the few times that we've actually granted full funding to everyone.
Carryover helped a lot.
The carryover helped a lot.
Made our jobs.
It made our jobs a lot easier.
And some of the tweaks were because we brought the match back. So I'm gonna tie into that because I have a question just for my clarification. Our application, the way that it went out last year, did not require applicants to bring a match.
Correct.
All right. This year, the match was put back into the application to be that they would have to produce 50% match for the funds that they received, and it could not be from tax dollars. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so my question would be in regards to the South Carolina Low Country Tourism Commission. Because when I read the application, it says the only exception to the match is the city's DMO. So my question would be, is the South Carolina Low Country Tourism Commission a part of that?
They're a regional DMO.
So because they're a regional DMO, they don't have to produce the matching funds. If that is the case, then I would think that our application needs to include them as an exemption.
Yeah, we did,
Right?
probably tweak that.
That's a good idea.
So,
She's here as well.
Beach is here.
Beach is here as well.
hey, so that would be my comment there. And then it looked like you guys have had conversations in regards to tiering the matching funds.
Yeah, so we had a short discussion at the end of our recommendations meeting regarding that, and we're gonna bring it up to the council's workshop to see if there's any interest in it, so then we can go ahead and start formalizing the plan for it to represent back to council as to how we're going to tier the system.
Would give more of an opportunity for younger fledgling businesses to come to the fray and give them a chance for success.
That's right. And it's in keeping with the application, which says that we're working towards making them financially independent and able to stand alone.
Correct.
So it's in keeping with what the mission already is. One more question. This is gonna be for part of the application again, for Cook Country Tourism Commission. But if I'm on page, council, if you're using your iPad, it's on page 123. And I may be looking at this wrong, but this is the handwritten, it looks like, the previous year revenues, projected expenses, promotional activities, and then the projected for this year. When I totaled these up, I didn't get those same numbers. In fact, I was way different. So if you're looking at the revenue for the previous year, and you add, it says the total revenues were 898,000. When I added the revenue for previous year, I got $642,380. So I don't know if there's something that is missing from there. In addition, the projected year's revenues, it says the totals are $901,000, 901.5, yeah. When I added that up, I got 895,000.
Sounds slush fund, okay, Peach. What you doing with that? That petty cash there, girl?
Flower fund. It's a Charleston jug.
She's donating it to the Sweet Street.
You, Scott. I'm gonna guess that the 72.8, they thought it was 77 or something. Oh,
Look at it. What you
Please,
looking at?
yeah, so it's the, basically I just took the,
It's your handwriting, I think.
yeah, whatever,
Oh.
whoever wrote this in the financial report,
What page we on?
124.
I don't have one. I have page one.
you only have the agenda pack, go to the packet.
What I'm thinking, what we're talking about here, the lists, the things, the item numbers and and what you have as the format is not the same as our full budget. So we have lots of other expenses and we have lots of other revenues as far as like donations, we have sales for the at the gift shop. So there's other.
Those were added in here like 50,000, I guess. And you're probably right, there's maybe some stuff missing here, but when I'm looking at this. And the numbers don't match by that much, it just leads to the question as to where is the difference coming from?
Gotcha. If you look in the packet, it also has a full budget.
Mhm.
So that full budget, this is just a portion of what comes out of the full budget. So the full budget is earlier in the application. Don't you ask for? Yeah, on page 4. So that's the full budget. That costs is every line item in the budget. But this is just a piece of the budget, which the budgeted revenues and expenses are still equal what they are on the budget itself. But it doesn't, it's not reflected all in here because there's not a place to put it.
Okay,
Because of all the expenses as far as visitor center goes, and maintenance of all of that stuff and.
Right.
Expenses and salaries that I don't include because they don't ask for a tax claim for that.
okay, so for transparency purpose, is there a better way to highlight that fact that this isn't the full budget, this is just a portion of the full budget? Because at first glance, looking at it, you would assume that you add these line items up, you get the total, you add these line items up, you get the total. And then when you get to the bottom and you add all that up, the numbers don't work. And it makes sense, that there's an explanation that this is just a portion of the full budget, but when you're looking at this, it almost would lead one to believe that this is the.
That you want it to be cumulative, you would
Yeah.
want it to add up to be the numbers.
Yes.
Right, and we'd be happy, I mean, the budget is there with all the full numbers in it, and we'd be happy to, do the P and
So
L.
basically, you're using this to answer the questions of what the
Yeah,
specific
what's your-
things we asked for, and then they do the total, so technically, there should be a bracket out here that says these numbers do not reflect all the numbers, that these are the totals.
That's right.
It's on what the information that you're asking for.
That might be something we could have to.
Because we have a lot of different, several other expenses that we do not ask pay tax dollars for.
And that's what I figured, but just wanted to.
And
get
technically,
clarification.
your 72A your 72A request, you have matched from the gift shop and other funds that are
Oh, yeah.
non.
State appropriations, and they're not tax, but they are.
You generate those, at least that match, even though you're a DMO.
Correct. That budget and it's grown tremendously since COVID. We were consistently at about 500 and now we're almost at 1 million. So that's pretty strong, but all of those numbers are here in the, budget itself for those expenses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question for you, for the board. So the additional funds you guys rolled over to EMO, Rob can use those funds for marketing. I understand that. Here's my question. Given the situation that the city is in with the waterfront park, would it make sense to have an additional fund balance that reflected a portion of the extra that could be used for the waterfront park? We know that we're going to need funding assistance. We're looking at state funding options, federal options, any local options that we can do, because we're gonna need money from several different areas. Would it make sense now to get ahead of that, being that we're 10 years behind already, to try to start building up a fund from our aid tax that would allow us to have something for the restoration of the waterfront park?
I don't think we have too much of a concern with that. The problem is if you start taking the funds out of this account, start depositing them into a separate account, you have 2 years to expend them. We can start saving right now, but are we gonna be at a point in 2 years where construction is gonna start commencing?
I would say that from the funds that we would be able to set aside here, we would be probably to the point of being able to use those funds, but I would defer to Scott on where he thought we would be able to. Do you think in 2 years' time, if we did start setting aside funds from the A tax, because we have to spend it within 2 years' time, would we be at a point in 2 years to where we could expend some of those funds that was set aside, or would it not be worth setting it aside now because we're not going to be to that point in 2 years?
It's hard to say. We've got permitting to go through first before we go on a construction contract. And I don't think this will kick in time enough to help us forward in a higher contract.
Well, this could kick in as soon as this year, right? So if we decided to not do it this year and go into next year, we don't know if we're gonna have a surplus or not. We may not have one, so it might be moot point. But in the year that we do have excess, I guess the point is, would it be worth setting aside some of that now to prepare for any work that needs to be done and funded regarding the waterfront park or not?
I think that idea fits squarely in infrastructure that supports tourism. Rejuvenating the waterfront is integral to the city's future. There's no argument from us on that. I think, as mentioned, it's a question of timing. Will you be in a position to use the funds now or not? So, I mean, that's up to you. So we gave you our recommendations, it's your
So
prerogative.
let me ask this then. Is there a way that we could say, and Alan, I'll bring you in this conversation too. So is there a way that we could say, we'll commit it to the waterfront park and then say in a year, we're not to that point and we know we're not going to be that point. We reallocate it to marketing for Rob's purposes and then it still goes to marketing and tourism.
I understand what you're saying, but I think tying up the funds for a full year and not using them for marketing when 250 is coming up already and we're behind the 8 ball with the waterfront park. We need to get as much marketing out there for Beaufort. We need to get as much marketing for Beaufort out as possible, quick as possible right now. Just so we can start first quarter, second quarter stronger in terms of trying to draw more tourists back into town. If you tie up you're asking basically
They would be what,
80,000?
80,000?
Yeah.
But we're not, won't be enough to make a dent in this project.
Everything is enough to do something.
It started, man, just.
Yeah.
Down the road, it could be used for amenities. For the park.
Could it also
Well,
be that,
any infrastructure you can use for that, so.
yeah, could it also be that Rob could use this money, bring more tourists in, which means more tax dollars
Yeah.
that we could use later on when this decision becomes more clear.
council wouldn't want to probably, if Rob wouldn't mind answering the question.
What are you gonna do with this money, Ron?
How much do you think 80,000 will generate in terms of revenue for the city?
Times 11.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody wants to see.
Rob, just tell them who you are.
That's a great question. We're good. We could spend quite a bit of time discussing the opportunities.
Please name for the record.
Rob Wells, Visit Buford, Orwell, Seattle, and CBD, official DMO of the city of Buford. When it comes to using additional funds that are available in advertising, putting them in the marketplace with a chance of a return on investment, we track it at about $11 for every dollar spent in return is the return to golfers. Well, the hope would be to continue to position Buford in the awareness of the travel intender. Right now, we're seeing kind of a softening of the marketplace, so this would not be a time to withhold funds. If funds are available, you would want to put them back into the market to position Buford as a place to come and visit. We're here to make the DMO job is to set the table, or the floor, if you will, for the brand, for the destination as a whole, to make the ask. We're the official to make the ask to come visit Buford. The events and festivals that we have that you guys are funding through the state tax are a lot of the hooks that we use to kind of capture the tourists, visitors that come into the area. And then the attractions add to the experience. It's always been a premise of the DMO to say, if you're gonna withhold money, unless you're gonna put it in Bitcoin and get some interest off of it. It's not gonna go, it's putting it into the marketplace is the best opportunity for you to get your return back quicker.
Turk would have a real problem on this.
Turk would have a field day.
They would, yeah.
Let's put PowerPoint pickups.
The message from the CVB is it, and even from from the tourism as well. Anything related to Buford, are y'all talking about, are you showing the waterfront park that it's still there? And how are y'all addressing that? 'Cause I know we're getting a lot of calls and comments.
Right.
I mean,
So,
I did a presentation last night for a group of local businessmen and when I walked into the room, they wanted to know why we were tearing down the waterfront park.
right.
I was like, okay.
We still get people from the visitor center will come in and ask like how long the project's gonna take or that kind of stuff, they make decisions based off of it. We still position that there's still access to water in Buford. That's the 88% of all people that come to visit the area will access to water, and that could mean different things. It could be in a boat, could be in a kayak, could be visualization, right? They still have that opportunity to get that. That is our message. It's always continued to be our message. The concern is if you get some sort of bad communication that's out there. Perception that waterfront park is closed is actually worse than it might be up there, right? So there are some things that we have to combat. I think any comms plan that the city rolls out, the DMO needs to be a part of that communication and make sure we're articulating that to set proper expectation. Remember, I've always said it, told you guys at the retreat and all those things, that the equation is very simple. It's the visitor expectation. You got to exceed that. So the visitor experience has to be greater than or equal to the expectation. And that's our goal in setting that agenda moving forward. So additional advertising dollars, we're still going to promote access to water, history, and those same things. I think committee's recommendation for the 250th, that is something that we would be adding to the proper list.
And I'd just like to say that as far as the funding, putting it into the market right now, we're also facing some challenges with AI and the zero-click model with Google. We know Google will give you, if you do a query and it says, I want to go to Beaufort, this is Beaufort, la la la. Now, that's giving them the answer, and Google thinks that they're doing a user an asset, but they're doing the user and us very much damage, because it doesn't give us the opportunity for our websites to get out there, that so that it gives them ideas. Well, I don't wanna say 2 nights, I wanna say 4 nights. I wanna use Beaufort as a hub and go to Charleston, Savannah. So that's a challenge, and we're having to put more money into organic search, and we're having to put more money into paid social. And those, because Meta is what it is, if you don't ban, then you ain't playing. You're not getting the reach that you can do when you add the money behind it. So in my opinion, right now, this is a really kind of a challenging time for DMOs, it's because of that, the AI influence in Google and the Meta deal. So I think that the best use of the money is to put it in market, in my opinion.
And certainly the dollar does not go as far as it used to.
We do have an opportunity, and I mentioned you, Rob, and Scott and I met with the producer of the show called Now You Know, Steve Gutenberg. They, it's probably, what would you say, pay for play type thing?
Well, yeah, they expect you to fund some of their production costs upfront. It's a show, it's a national show on CNBC Saturday mornings. And they want to start featuring cities, and the city of Beaufort is one of the first cities that they're actually interested in featuring, so we had a brief meeting with them. Didn't know until we were through with the meeting that they wanted $25,000 to.
It's like a 6 to 8 minute video, it goes national. They do all the social media, they give you the product, they have an advertisement for it. It's a way of promoting Beaufort. You know, I'm not in the business, I don't know if that's working or not.
Sure, I mean, those are all, I mean, those are all important opportunities to showcase the city and destination as it is. I think we got some right over money. So
So you get 25,000.
There's 33 left over.
Well, that's what they said.
Well, the message that needs to be
I
sent.
mean, it's.
Tell the
part of
park.
Beaufort Day.
It's only gonna follow down.
80,000
Part of the
viewers.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The city's not, the city's not shut down. The promenade is a part of those access, but you still access water, you still access downtown. Still a great destination to come and enjoy, and that's the message.
It's a small segment of it's closed, but the park is open.
Right, again, we're trying to avoid the perception of a closure as opposed to what truly is.
I know you don't have the visitor numbers yet for the Shrub Festival, but just by eyeballing it, attendance was not down because the promenade was closed.
Yeah, I don't have it, I'll get with Linda in the next couple, few days when those numbers come in. And, well, it won't be this, it probably won't be the same numbers as in the past. But yeah, for sure, they're pretty solid regardless. I mean, it's a signature of that core time. So,
So it sounds like it's better to put the money back into marketing now and then maybe potentially use the remaining 33,000 for this $25,000 national deal with you guys. Yeah.
Any dollar spent towards marketing Beaufort is probably best investment we can make.
They claim they've got 89 million viewers. And
Where they aired at.
on CNBC, it's on Saturdays.
Saturday mornings.
Now, no,
There you go.
That would have to be a recommendation that would come from the TDAC.
sorry.
To do that, so I don't know if we need to have a separate meeting for that or what your process is, Chad.
Put the application in and look at it, and I'm sure the committee would be happy to fund it. That's going straight towards marketing Beaufort. And we'll probably just have a quick Zoom call for that. And
Yeah, we get.
We
the
do,
whole
we
product.
get the whole product to whatever we want to.
Put it on all of our.
Get a free advertisement, get social media.
we're happy to help.
Did we get shirts?
I mean, we can help,
We
the
get
city
shirts.
would help, really help put that together, whatever. That's it.
We could do things, for instance, to have Rob's team evaluate that from a media impact standpoint.
I think it's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point. Just to make sure. Outside of that, I appreciate all the time that you guys put in, a full day of going through and more than that, but obviously a full day meeting and discussing it. And I don't have any other changes to the recommendations you guys for us, so.
Thank you for all the additional support details and everything.
I like the way this worked.
Thanks. No, been filling that void, by the way.
This is a lot easier than years past. I'll just got.
You're right, Jack.
Thank you all.
Real nice again. Anybody else from council have any comments? Anybody from the public? Yeah, hearing none, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is a discussion of the public camping orders. Proposed update.
Yes, yeah. So you just come back for more.
Okay, you're gonna camp.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor, there was a point made, about bringing a tiered structure for the matching funds back to a work session so that we can iron that out before the next application process. Is that okay? Okay.
Okay, so as long as council's okay with it, then we can put our time into it and move forward with it. Sure.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Great job.
Hey, now, JJ, you on deck?
Hi, good
Public
evening,
camping orders.
good evening, council. In your package, you have 4 items related to this proposed public camping ordinance update. The first is the staff report. Second is the proposed camping ordinance that City Attorney Ben Coppedge put together at the request of Chief Price. The third is the current camping ordinance as it is written, and the fourth item is a change table that summarizes the differences between the two. This was originally brought back in July. Chief Price had requested review of our existing camping ordinance from the city attorney because they were having complaints downtown of people sleeping or camping on sidewalks or in private doorways in the downtown area. The original ordinance, as you can see, is a pretty slim ordinance. So the city attorney looked at some other municipalities and gave us the proposed camping ordinance. This was on for discussion at last month's meeting. We just did not get to it. As far as legal authority goes, this is within our 5730 authority for the preservation, health, peace, order of good government. The penalty clause is within the limits prescribed by 57260 for municipal ordinances. And then this language actually requires a written or verbal warning before any type of enforcement, which follows best practices from both state and federal First and 14th Amendment case law. We don't anticipate that there will be any additional personnel or capital costs with enforcement of this. Beaufort PD will incorporate the warning step into their standard operating procedures. The municipal court should be able to absorb any additional caseload, although this will be an ordinance that will affect unhoused populations more than anyone else. I know there has been some controversy across the state as municipalities have adopted more stringent ordinances. Going to the ordinance table, the major changes are in the definition where it clarifies that unattended bundles, carts are covered, focuses in on things that obstruct both doorways, entranceways, and public areas. It removes ambiguity noted by the city attorney regarding entrances to private businesses, where that was not clearly covered in the previous ordinance. It just said property owned by the city, which would be the streets and the sidewalks, parks. So that ambiguity is addressed. It gives officers an easy reference when citing violations on parkland by proving that definition of public parks. Extends coverage to obstruction conduct that often accompanies sidewalk camping, improving pedestrian safety. Ensures due process notice and provides officers with discretion, aligns with best practices and civil liberties guidance as far as the enforcement section goes. And then the language for the penalties models mirrors the language in South Carolina Code 5730, 57260, which authorizes municipal penalties and makes those consequences transparent within the section. Does council have any questions about why this update was brought before council and the update itself?
So one, I appreciate this. I think that the changes that are being made absolutely remove ambiguity in regards to the storing personal property. I guess I'll ask, and this could be a question for Chief Price in regards to enforcement. Now, the way that our ordinance is currently structured, my understanding is it would potentially give us an avenue by which we could remove people from, say, the waterfront park. We have not been, or at least we're not able to keep up with that for whatever reason, but changing the language to include private properties that public use, whether it's sidewalks or in front of entryways, I can see how that can be valuable. I'm just not sure that it will help us do any better in regards to the enforcement. And then on the enforcement side, my question is, what really happens? So you have somebody that's homeless, they're camping out downtown, say, and you give them a warning, which our current ordinance says that you can give a written or an oral warning first. And now we're including more, which I think is good because it essentially says that, but then also says warnings are not particular to a location, but to the unlawful conduct overall, which I think is helpful. But you give this person a warning and then you come back in a week, they're doing the same thing, you arrest them and their violation is either $500 or 30 days in jail. Now, if I'm homeless and I get arrested, chances are I don't have $500. So it's going to, does it just default to 30 days at that point? And then are we responsible for any items that are left behind? And how does that help us move forward? Because even if they do 30 days and they're released in 30 days, they're released right here and it's a rock's throw away back to downtown. So with all of that, what would be your thoughts on our current language, the changes that are being made and how that helps the police department and the realities of if it does?
So right now we do give the warnings, and when we warn folks, and it's usually sleeping in public areas, that's really what, the camping ordinance, that's what we use now. And so we do warn it, and we don't just go and give one warning and you're out. Usually we receive multiple calls, we give multiple warnings. Hey, you can't stay here. Can we take you someplace? Can we help you get someplace? Usually the answer is no, I like it here. So that's not gonna work for you sleeping in public. It scares our guests, it scares our visitors, tourists. You can't just go sleep in public. And then, and to be quite honest, there's times that all the things that they have with them, be it clothes, food, whatever kind of items, are strewn about. Well, we can't have that either, right? It creates an environment that's unsafe. I don't know what's in those bags. You can't just leave those bags there. I fear for kids that go through those bags, to be quite honest with you. Some of our homeless folks have mental health issues. We'll gladly get them mental health help. Some of our homeless folks have, substance abuse issues. Again, leading to, I don't know what's in those bags. So, and if they need to go to the hospital or something like that, we certainly will. I will tell you this, yes, we do arrest them, right? After usually a significant amount of warnings. What happens with the money and the jail time is all on the judge. We just take you to court. Whatever the judge decides is punishment or not, or time in jail or not, that's on the judicial system, right? We don't have any say in that. And that's fine, that's exactly how it works, and that's how we do our equity of duties. So I will tell you this though, with the permission of Mr. City Manager, I have been approaching a couple of our service organizations, i.e. churches in the area, and we've kind of started to work out a system. It's in a very pilot project. Is that okay? You're good, sir, if I talk about this correctly. We had several discussions on this. I'm now working with one and I've almost got the other one on board. They're waiting to hear from their board about this. And we have started to offer services to folks because we don't have a holistic view of services here in Beaufort County, meaning I don't have a one-stop shop. Yes, exactly. I don't have a one-stop shop to help someone who is unhoused, right? I really don't. None of us do. And it's more of a county issue with their funding than it's city of Beaufort, but what can we do? Right, like this was a conversation we've had many times, what can we do? So I've been approaching the churches and been working with the churches, and they've actually been providing bus tickets to people like, we have a homeless person. We know who needs help, we know who lives here, we know who's not from here. where can you go to get the most support services and where do you have your family of support? Not necessarily your family, but where is your bridge of support that we can help you get to? So we've actually done it twice so far. We provide transportation. The churches will get a hold of us. We provide the transportation and we stay with them, and usually it's a bus ticket to get them to wherever they go, right? So they're gonna go to Charlotte, they're gonna wherever, Pittsburgh, I don't know where they went, I actually do, but wherever that your services are, it could be your home, it could be your friends, it could be you have a job waiting for you at a service center there, and that's actually been the case. So
Okay.
we're trying to go another step further other than, hey, let's just arrest you and go on. That's not gonna fix this.
That's exactly what I was looking for, because that's what needs to happen as an additional step that's built into the, as you pointed out, that once they're arrested, the violation or the charges are up to the judge. So whether they charge them $500, which they're not gonna have, or they do 30 days, the reality is it doesn't solve the issue. Yeah, and so trying to identify exactly where their support system is and make sure that we can help facilitate them getting to that point from A to B is probably that's what we need to be doing. So I don't know if there's anything that I can do to help, but as you guys work through that, if there's anything that I can do, I would definitely jump on the opportunity to help, because I think that's what we need to do.
Well, we're beginning that program. We do expect it to grow. We expect more churches and maybe other service organizations to come on board and help with that. And to the extent that we can cause any kind of change and positive motivation for reducing the homelessness, this is what we can do right now. So this is what we're doing. Kudos to the police department and Chief Price for initiating that. It's a program that I know she's familiar with, and I think she was doing it when she was the chief in Bluffton also, and that's the model for this program. And so far, it's off to a good start. We do intend on giving you a formal review of it in a work session, but it worked right into the conversation here. So we introduced it to you a little before we had planned to, but just know that we are working on this program.
And I've talked to several pastors in the last couple of years that I think would jump at the chance to be a part of it, so.
Anybody's watching this, you can give my number, please, and just give me a call, email, text, whatever it takes. And I'd love to come out and talk and explore, and we're still kind of fine tuning the process and how it goes. But so far, it's actually went really good. Had a couple of folks so far.
I like the transportation element. I know a lot of them get incarcerated here in this place where they get incarcerated in the city of Beaufort. When they get released, they have no place to go.
Oh, it's right.
And they hear the waterfront parks,
So they go down.
Across one road and I'm there.
So,
Exactly.
but this camping, this helps us towards that end as well.
So this helps us, get in contact with people and also the business owners and the patrons downtown, right? I mean, if you're camping per se in a public place, but yet it's a private stoop, that's not okay, right? You're really obstructing, yes. So that's what this ordinance does to help refine that language to help us have enforcement.
Right, because even though our ordinance talked about private property, it didn't never define it. There was never a definition that clarified that ambiguity. That's what this does.
And like Mr. Sauvé said, we were actually having these discussions within the police department. We all got legal issues in the police department. Well, do we have the authority to do this? Don't we have the authority? And this is how it came about.
Due process, this is right too.
You know, I applaud what you're doing, Chief, and you and I, we had a little bit of this conversation before. But I'm gonna go back to, we're heavy on the ordinance to get rid of the homeless folks. And no matter who I've talked to, whether it's at the county level, the city level, whoever on the street. What I don't hear is that while the churches can help and it's great that we can send folks back to where they want to be, we have a lot of people that are right here, that this is their home. And I don't know why we can't get any traction, or I haven't gotten any traction on what do we do to take care of the people that are here. These folks aren't gonna disappear. They gotta be somewhere. You know, they come out of the woods, you see them on the street, and might want to look the other way, but these are people. And I think that we as a city should put effort into trying to have something in our city. And I encourage, like facilities and the other municipalities in the county, where we can take care of the people who want to be where they are. Because no matter who I talked to, I had a great conversation with the person, I won't mention his name. You know, it was all about, oh yeah, we gotta get rid of these homeless people. My question too, where do they go? When we say get rid of them, put them where?
Where they have their best support.
Well, that's fine, the best support, but if you start sending people back to their home, who's to say that you send them to Sumter? And folks may interpret that as what I heard when I first became part of this elected position, is that, you know, you're shipping people off to other places, or other places are shipping their people here. I mean, you know, after a while, it just gets kind of reciprocal that zero each other out. But, you know, I think it's a combination of everything, and I don't mean to imply that what we're trying to do with the churches are not good. I think it's great. It's just that I think there's another element to that, and that element is that, you know, I've heard this story, oh, if we have a homeless facility here, we'll have all the homeless. I don't buy that. I really don't. What's the answer? So we do nothing?
And I think
I don't get it.
there's
There's an aversion. There's an aversion to wanting to look at a problem that's a human problem. And these people, it's not necessarily all their fault. Like the chief mentioned, you know, they may have health problems, mental problems that may not be of all they're doing. It's just not as simple as I think a lot of folks, I'm not trying to talk about people directly in this room, but when I talk to folks and I bring this conversation up, I just don't hear any solutions except get rid of them.
Well, the message from the United Way has been, I know in the years that I've been talking to them, and we've met with them several times together, is your resources are fragmented here in the county, and we need to bring the resources together. And so one, a step would be exactly what Chief's doing here, in my mind, is to determine where they get their most support. But the other reality to that is there are a lot of places that do a better job at bringing their resources together to one place. And it might be better for somebody to go there where they can get all of that help in one hub. And then the next step would be us as a region or whatever, working to bring our own resources together so that they're not so fragmented, so that those who are here and that are going to stay here can get the help that they need without having to take several days off work to bounce around from all these different places just to find out that, you know, what they need is not here. So I do think it's kind of like a 1-2 punch where you have, are there support groups somewhere else? Okay, let's identify that and let's help them get there. If it's here, then we need to have all of our resources in one place where they can get the help that they need.
Council, I think it goes back to what Chief Price said about we don't have a holistic approach here to dealing with these types of issues. These are what MPA programs they call wicked problems. They're issues like substance abuse, mental health, homelessness that no one jurisdiction like the organization can address how small it can be. This is one of several projects that have gotten off the ground the past few years here. The mental health officer, staff, the police department being embedded. There's been a lot of conversation. We're starting to get some traction. Judges at the county level, and the municipal judges, clerk's offices. One of the reasons we wanted to implement Thursdays at a full-time municipal prosecutor and update the public defender contract of the municipal courts was to have attorneys that could communicate better, have a little more time to focus on some of these, what a lot of people would call petty offenses, but this is what brings so many of these people into the courts to help find those right resources and try to get the right people at the right table at the right time. And I sympathize with all of your comments about how hard it is to get that traction and to get those right people to the right table. But this is just one of many different programs that are being implemented. And staff hears me say it all the time. A lot of times it's like we're playing whack-a-mole with problems, because we get pulled and shifted and something becomes a priority for us or the police department, and then there's another incident and they're pulled in a different direction, or we finally get the county resources coming to the table, and then they have another incident that they're pulled to and lose their focus. So, again, this is one of many approaches trying to adapt or adopt more of a holistic approach to the underlying issues. And Chief, I think that's.
Oh, I was gonna just briefly say, this is completely voluntary. Of course, we would never force anyone to go anywhere. So this is just a response when our officers get calls on or run across folks, and they do often tell our officers, you know, I'd really like to be in X, but I don't know how I'm gonna get there. So we can help you with that. That's what and they do often tell officers that. I have a job waiting on me in X if I can just get there.
This is a regional issue,
Yeah.
or a regional solution. It's not just Speedbird,
It is.
it's unincorporated county. That's why a little over a year ago, we brought the Human Services Department to a NERPIC meeting to provide us a presentation, and the intention was to then bring them to a SoLoco meeting where we had representatives from all the local governments. And then we get all the local governments on board. Then we've got a little more gravity to work with our legislators in Columbia who have some influence now for the low country and can bring some money back to us for programs like this. That step in bringing it to SoLoco and getting that energy put into it has not occurred yet. And so I think the answer is if you're as an elected official, if you're upset about this situation and you want to energize it, you start having conversations with your counterparts in the other local governments, and especially on county council, because they have the human services mission. They get funded for missions like this. It's not that we can't contribute to it, we can. We just can't solve it on our own.
Well, you know, we're meeting with Michael, on Friday, right? So we're trying to do that.
Yeah, that's one of the topics we'll cover.
Can I ask a general question, and you alluded to it a minute ago? So our judicial system, how do they help us in this process?
Well, so it depends on the situation, really. So we have actually worked with our judiciary and municipal, and we actually identified folks that potentially need mental health services, and we're working to more court-ordered evaluations of those individuals to actually get them the help that they need in a court-ordered manner.
That's what you were talking about with the magistrates and the judges.
Yes.
Remember, the maximum a person could be potentially held under this would be 30 days, so that creates a very short window in the grand scheme of getting people treated. So because you don't want to hold somebody pre-trial, not what their maximum possible sentence could be. So coordinating the municipal courts with the magistrate courts, probate courts, that was kind of the first step when I got here a couple of years ago, and Sarah kind of taken the lead on that with the clerks, and for various reasons that's not made as much progress this year as we would like, but that is still in the progress. That coordination is still trying to go on.
And that is also a fragmented process.
It is.
For social services like that, though it's not necessarily social services, it is getting someone the help that they need. And we've actually had a few successes with that.
A lot of it's information sharing, getting evaluation shared across the different courts. Guidance from the state that allowed for that information sharing. Was a major holdup. We were able to work through it.
Yeah, any comments? Anybody from the public? I forgot this was on the agenda. State your name. Joe Mack, 1809 Boundary, didn't expect to speak. So downtown Beaufort, now you can go back in time, so it's the same faces down there that are homeless. 3 years ago, I counted in my head just now, I could easily get to 10 names, the same faces, and maybe even 15. The county person, I think it was a new position they hired for the homeless outreach. I don't know what they're doing, but maybe get them to get on a bike or walk around downtown and talk to those folks. Maybe they already have, I don't know. A few of those seem to have an alcohol problem.
And I think another guy, one guy has my curiosity because I don't think he has a substance abuse problem. He likes to read. And I just learned his name. I mean, hell, one of the guys, I saw him right across the street from my business. He had a knapsack and he took out a big old bottle. And I think my eyes got real big. I'm like, whoa, dude. And so, and he's, you know, chugging it. And I'm like, and it looked like liquor. So, and when I first knew he had an alcohol problem, that was years ago. It was so long ago. There was a red bike parked on the sidewalk with a kickstand. I was like, you know, it just got dark and I was like, oh, a free bike. Well, he was using the facilities right there in Ned Tupper's Law Building, corner of Bay and Carteret. And I said, oh, it's his bike. I was about to grab it. I thought it was a free bike. And he was stumbling drunk. And I mean, and some of those folks, I see them all the time because they roam around downtown. I see it all on Boundary Street. They're on bicycle, they're on foot. The county person, I don't know what they're making, but I think when they came out with that, I was like, wow, they're making that much money. And so I don't know. And now you got the water, the outer shell walkway closed down, but the red bricks open at the waterfront. So and you still got the homeless. So I think that, I mean, I can't give them a job. I'm not gonna tolerate drugs and they wouldn't work out. I don't know how you get them to work. You need to, and the police, they can give great advice, I'm sure. They see it all. They can all write 1,200 books. All of them, I'm sure. They see stuff you don't want to see, I'm sure. I don't want to hear it. I see enough, just my own day-to-day living. I've seen enough dysfunction in my own childhood and everything. No child should see what I've seen. So the problem, and you have different ages down there. I mean, I could just rattle off the names. I can't, I'm not equipped to help somebody like that. They're, and the other, the people, and I fixed their bikes. I even sold a girl a bike, $20. That was the homeless price. So I can only help, but get that county person, get them down there. I mean, it's like the county just forgets about certain things. And like, I think Scott said, the resources, that's, you know, whatever. So, yeah, so, the city police doing a great job. They're not in the newspaper for nothing bad. The county, you can't say that. So thank y'all.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have another item on the agenda on short-term rentals, but unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna be able to get to it at this time. So we'll have to postpone it probably until next session. So we can give a little more time to it. We have a very lengthy agenda starting at 7 o'clock. And so.
You don't think we can knock out at least a portion of it in 15 minutes?
So,
You don't think we can get started on it in 15 minutes and see what happens?
I think if you get started on it, you probably won't want to stop anytime with, maybe 7 o'clock.
I'd like to give it some time and conversation. I think the changes are good. That's something. If that's agreeable to everybody, I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting so we can. Upstairs. Thanks.
Yes.
What's your?